Asia is in our organization's DNA. We've had a presence in 14 Asian countries for 360 years.
The conditions are obviously not the same as for priests in France. In the Karen territories, you're in the jungle.
In the Vatican, the priests who are part of the Paris foreign missions get listened to because they're in places that it's difficult to access. So they're a link. They have an aura.
As for the foreign missions' control over their own priests, it's pretty weak from what I've seen.
We're just inside the Thai border, home to the Karen people. The Paris Foreign Missions Society has been working amongst the ethnic group for more than 50 years. Today, the faithful are paying homage to the founder of the Catholic mission, French priest Gabriel Tigreat, who died in 2007.
เราก็จะมีเรื่องเล่าเรื่องเล่าที่เราจะเล่าแล้วเราก็จะเก็บความทรงจำความประทับใจเนี่ยไปจนตลอดชีวิตของเรานะครับ
ก็เป็นก้าวแรกของการศึกษานะคะก้าวแรกในการให้โอกาสนะคะแต่เพราะวันที่เขาจะรับเด็กจะพาเด็กไปเที่ยวทะเลไปนี่คือสมัยนั้นนะก็ผมก็เคยไปกับพ่อครั้งก็เหมือนว่าเขารักเด็กทุกคนเหมือนลูก
For more than 30 years, Father Tigreat's boarding school hosted up to 260 children. For better, and sometimes for worse.
We sleep in the same room, and then in the morning, he come and pick up one of the boy, and then go to the bed together. And actually, it's not appropriate, but I don't know, because at that time I'm very young, and my friend also very young, and we know nothing at the moment.
This man is a former student at the boarding school. We'll call him Vinay. In vague terms, he describes repeated sexual assault he suffered as a child at the hands of Gabriel Tigreat.
He said that you are my son, and I love you, and you love me, or something like that. And you know, he I cannot say deeply about that, but I think that it's not appropriate to do with a child, something like that.
Our investigation into the Paris Foreign Mission Society begins with this testimony. In Thailand, sexual abuse of children is a taboo subject. We film with a hidden camera. Father Tigreat's predatory practices are repeatedly described.
ชอบจับอวัยวะเพศของผู้ชายแต่ได้ยินนะเคยได้
อย่างที่ได้ยินมาว่าเด็กไปนอนภาษาเนี่ยตอนคืนเราไปนอนกอดเล่นตอนเช้า
For decades, the cross-border Karen population has been persecuted by Myanmar's military junta. Many have fled fighting and poverty, seeking refuge in Thailand. According to our sources, their benefactor promised them a better future in exchange for sexual favors.
ชวนเข้าไปนอนเล่นที่บนเตียงกับพ่อนะ พ่อสอนนะคุณต้องเป็นคนดีนะคุณต้องทำนี้เป็นคนดีนะ อย่าไปทำเสียพ่อเสียใจพ่อจะส่งไปเรียนสูงๆพ่อจะตั้งใจให้คุณไปเรียนคุณพ่ออย่าเรียนคุณครูเรียนหมอเรียนอะไรพ่อจะส่งเสริมพ่อชวนผมไปที่น้องเขานะพ่อบอกว่าผมว่าต่อไปครูต้องเป็นครูคำสอนนะพ่อจะส่งไปเรียนครูคำสอน
If we don't have this priest, we will not receive any education, and also benefit and misbehavior is like make me hard to say or criticize about that, and I'm feeling like a betray to him.
For a long time, Vinay kept silent until he met Father Camille Riot, another French missionary, this one actively involved on the subject of abuses.
I remember when he confided in me. He told me, we didn't think of ourselves as victims. We thought it was normal. We thought it was the other side of everything that we had received from this priest, and that it was almost the price to pay. And so there I said to myself, something is really wrong here.
Donc là, je me suis dit, effectivement, il y a quelque chose qui tourne par rond, quoi.
Father Camille lived among the Karen for 6 years.
Father Camille Riot is a very talented missionary. Everything that he established was extremely valuable. He's a tireless worker.
And yet, his superiors recalled him to France, far from his mission. He now lives in Paris, in a small one-room apartment lent to him by a friend.
He's like all of us. We have our qualities, our faults, our limits. Father Camille took charge of a number of cases. Unfortunately, things became tense, but we hope these tensions will ease.
Camille Riot believes his alerts were unwelcome. For 5 years now, he has denounced breaches and alleged sexual abuse within his organization. In June 2020, when he reported Vinay's testimony to his hierarchy, Father Camille was shocked.
That same evening, I called the Superior General of Paris Foreign Missions, who at that time was Father Gilles Rétinger.
Gilles Rétinger is now the auxiliary bishop of Strasbourg. This is him in 2019 with Pope Francis. His name is at the center of the Paris Foreign Missions affair.
I explained to him the facts as we knew them, and this testimony. In response, I was made to understand that they had been aware for months, and that apparently it was all true, but that I shouldn't worry, because our attorneys had been consulted and the foreign missions was covered.
In June 2020, Gilles Rétinger says he sent the case file on to Luis Antonio Tagle, Rome's head of missionary congregations.
Cardinal Tagle has all of the documents, testimonies, and descriptions of events in his possession. He has told me that he will take quick action.
Tagle is a Filipino cardinal who's highly influential in the Vatican.
I myself was convinced that, faced with the gravity of the reported facts, they would act swiftly and diligently, but clearly that wasn't to be.
Years passed and nothing happened. So Father Camille continued to sound the alarm. Hundreds of emails, copies of which he now keeps in a secure location.
There's correspondence with my superiors, with officials in Rome, with colleagues. The only way for me to judge the commitment of my superiors on these issues is to see for myself that not only did nothing change within the mission, but also my personal situation got much worse.
What is this organization to which both Gabriel Tigreat and Camille Riot belong? The Paris Foreign Missions Society, les Missions étrangères de Paris, or MEP, a Catholic organization created in the 17th century to convert the people of Asia. Today, the Paris Foreign Missions has 150 priests spread across 14 countries. It helped to establish the Church of Thailand. Its website lists former missionaries. But there's no trace of Gabriel Tigreat.
Within the Catholic Church, the Paris Foreign Missions is a very well-known society of priests. Their headquarters are in Paris. They're quite opulent, right next to the Prime Minister's residence.
Voilà, messieurs, dames, si vous voulez bien me suivre.
June 2022. Our investigation has barely begun. We take advantage of an exhibition to obtain permission to film in this landmark of the Catholic Church.
Voilà. Alors, dans cette salle des martyrs, vous avez tous les objets qui sont ici sont en relation avec les pères des missions étrangères de Paris qui ont donné leur vie pour le Christ. Ce sont des prêtres qui ont été nommés vicaires apostoliques par le pape Alexandre VII et qui ont parcouru ces longues distances à pied pour rejoindre le Siam, l'actuelle Thaïlande. Voilà.
It's our first meeting with the current Superior General of the Paris Foreign Missions.
Ce qu'on appelle l'évangélisation, c'est porter l'évangile, l'amour du prochain.
What we call evangelizing means to carry the gospel, the love of your neighbor, the welcoming of strangers. And so, since 1658, the fathers of the MEP have gone abroad to spread the word of Christ while respecting different cultures.
1 year later, the venerable institution is rocked by a series of scandals.
On va revenir sur les révélations qui bouleversent les missions étrangères de Paris.
L'évêque auxiliaire de Strasbourg dans la tourmente.
Y a-t-il eu des abus dans l'une des plus prestigieuses organisations catholiques, les missions étrangères?
Voilà, messieurs, dames, venez, on va descendre par ici.
As the affair bursts into the open in spring 2023, we have been investigating for a year. We've contacted dozens of people who told us of double lives, psychological control, sexual abuse, both abroad and in France. A complex investigation in which nearly all of our sources wished to remain anonymous.
Il y avait une ambiance, des comportements à mon égard qui laissaient penser à des avances.
Déjà, il avait un côté très entreprenant et très recruteur.
Dès qu'il voyait certains jeunes, il s'excitait.
C'est un comportement homo un peu lourd, tout le monde était plus ou moins au courant dans la maison.
Beaucoup de jeunes, encore psychologiquement une certaine instabilité affective.
Je vous prie de ne pas insister davantage, je ne souhaite pas être mêlé de près ou de loin à ce reportage.
Autumn 2022, 3 months after Camille Riot was called back to France. On this day, he's been called to the Paris Foreign Missions headquarters, accompanied by his lawyer. The priest now risks dismissal. 2 hours later, the meeting has been fruitless.
It's falling on deaf ears, but that's nothing new.
There's a total dysfunction in this congregation, but also more broadly in the entire institution. It's not the whistleblower who should be punished, but rather those who are at the root of the problems.
The fate of the whistleblower priest remains uncertain. That's when our investigation takes an unexpected turn. On the other side of the world, in Japan, another scandal has just erupted. On his YouTube channel, a French expat claims to have been raped by a priest from the Paris Foreign Missions.
Do you realize that you abused me?
His name is Timothée. In late July 2022, he returns to France at the request of the Paris Foreign Missions. Timothée is 39. He's the only alleged victim of a MEP priest who has agreed to show his face on camera.
I have Asperger's syndrome.
He begins by describing the autism that makes him more vulnerable to those like his alleged abuser.
When you have Asperger's, you're afraid of crowds. I can't take the metro. I can't take the bus.
Timothée tells us he was raped multiple times as a youth in France. At age 20, he fled his own country for Japan. There he would meet his wife, start a family, open a restaurant. Every Sunday, he would go to Mass, held by the Paris Foreign Missions.
I was happy living in Japan with my wife Kyoko and our daughters. We were surrounded by the Paris Foreign Missions.
His life is punctuated by periods of depression. During one such episode in July 2022, Timothée went seeking solitude on the island of Hokkaido. There he met a local priest of the MEP, Father Philippe, here on the left. The French missionary took him in, even becoming his confessor. Then, Timothée says, he assaulted him.
I panicked, and I tried to leave. He blocked my path, and he hugged me like this. And when he was done, he let me go, and I ran away to my room.
According to Timothée, the priest followed him into his room.
I had my head in my pillow. I couldn't go on. I was curled up, and then, what happens, I feel something strange in my anus.
For hours, he describes to us the sex acts he says were forced on him, his state of shock, incapable of fending off his alleged attacker.
I didn't think that a priest could abuse people who are vulnerable. I didn't know that by trusting him, by confessing under the sacrament to Father Philippe, that I would be falling into a trap.
Memories of earlier rapes gave Timothée the strength to act, and he filed a complaint.
There was a sort of psychological control that was very strong due to the respect that Timothée had for the office of priest. So he was aware of his position of authority over Timothée. He had been his confessor. Within the institution of the Catholic Church, we're talking about an abuse of authority.
In August 2022, the MEP's Superior General Vincent Sénéchal meets with Timothée. He informs the organization by email and initiates legal action.
Philippe disputes the absence of consent. As is my duty, I've informed the public prosecutor and asked that the truth be ascertained.
Father Philippe was repatriated from Japan and placed in a priest's residence in a village 2 hours from Paris. We went to see him.
Bonjour. Bonjour. On est journaliste pour France 24.
Pardon, mais comment est-ce que vous êtes venu ici?
En fait, on travaille depuis un petit moment sur la société de prêtres à laquelle vous appartenez.
Our meeting with Father Philippe lasted 15 minutes.
Dans quel état d'esprit vous êtes, vous?
Mais ça vaut personne. Je n'ai pas du tout envie d'entrer dans un truc où c'est public. Si lui, il publie des trucs, il va voir des journalistes, il s'agite, eh ben, qu'il s'agite, mais à un moment, la vérité se fera.
Parce que lui, il dit que c'était pas consenti.
Mais écoutez, non. Pour l'instant, on va s'en tenir à ça, et puis je vous recontacte.
Father Philippe does not get back in touch. His lawyer declined to respond to our questions. According to her, the sexual relations were consensual. Timothée has not just filed a complaint, he's also launched his own investigation into sexuality at the MEP. He's even recorded Father Philippe with his agreement.
Je ne veux plus vivre ma vie à ma guise en me moquant de Jésus et du prochain, de toi. Jésus exige la vérité et le vrai amour. Donc là, le vrai amour, en l'occurrence, c'est de réparer ce que je t'ai fait à l'Église.
Father Philippe says he misinterpreted Timothée's friendship. In his confessions, recorded by Timothée, Father Philippe tells of his double life within the MEP. He describes an environment in which, according to him, young seminarians are sometimes initiated into a sexual life by older priests who take advantage of their more powerful positions.
And besides, in fact, I was brought into a system. I learned to be this way.
What do you mean you learned?
I was a good newcomer.
Okay.
A good new recruit.
Yeah.
As a sex object.
Sex object. Words that raise serious questions of consent.
So yes, I wanted to be liked. These were supposed to be good people I was with at the time. I didn't realize.
Sophie Lebrun is a journalist for La Vie, a Christian magazine. She specializes in sexual violence and control within the church.
What happens at MEP is happening across the entire Catholic Church. Certain priests seek out situations where they will be able to exercise power, to use their position as priests to indulge sexual impulses that they don't see as assaults, but which are wrong whichever way you look at it, be it by their vows, respect for others, all the commitments that they've made.
In an email, Father Philippe reveals another detail to Timothée. One of the first to have initiated him is, allegedly, Gilles Rétanger.
He was a mentor to me in the realms of sex and leading a double life.
Gilles Rétanger, the former superior of the Paris Foreign Missions, alerted by Camille Riot on the alleged abuses in Thailand. He denies any sexual relationship with Father Philippe.
The claim that Gilles Rétanger is the initiator of, I could say, a certain homosexuality is one that he totally, categorically denies. He has already brought a number of legal proceedings against his accusers.
Our investigation returns to Thailand and the Karens on the Myanmar border. Camille Riot has blown the whistle not only on Gabriel Tigreat, but on 2 other foreign missions priests as well. One of them is still alive. He once ran a boarding school. We'll call him Father X. Manat, a Thai priest, was the first to sound the alarm.
The prophet.
He took in youths, still very young. He had very strange behavior. I don't dare talk about it. It's bad. That's why he got into arguments with the nuns and the Sunday school teachers. It's why the Paris Foreign Missions reassigned him elsewhere.
Father X was sent to another country in Asia. In a different village, a priest fills in more details. We recorded him without his knowledge.
Or someone confirmed he touched special part of the body. The young people who live here before, maybe 1 or 2 people confirm the same.
According to a third source with inside information, Father X targeted young Burmese refugees, the most vulnerable of the Karen. The MEP headquarters in Thailand is in the capital, Bangkok. It's the day of Mass for French expats. Brice Testu, the new regional director, says he's aware of the abuses under Father Tigreat. For him, it's ancient history, with no other problems to report.
With regards to the foreign missions, today I would be the person that anything would be brought to. I've been here for a year, and when I say there's been nothing, I mean really nothing. There hasn't been a single case of abuse, either spiritual or sexual, that has come before me in a year. Nothing.
In Paris, Vincent Sénéchal is also adamant. In this email from November 2021, the head of the Paris Foreign Missions writes,
"The investigation of the MEP's local superior interviewed 11 people and was unable to establish the credibility of assault allegations." It's my sincere belief that, regarding this case, everything that should have been done has been done. Unless new information is brought to me, at the close of this investigation, it's my sincere belief that the priest who's been investigated does not pose any danger.
But we have our doubts about the investigation carried out by the Paris Foreign Missions. These stem from a conversation with Vinay, the Karen victim of Father Tigreat. Vinay is one of the witnesses interviewed by the MEP.
Yes, I'm trying to find a good place to speak about this case.
During this call, he tells us that the MEP's investigator did not see fit to meet other victims.
I already told Father Nicholas, I think that not only me, but as I told you, the other kids before, they also, not only me, so we can find another one to involve, I think, something like that. But he said, no, he doesn't. We don't want to do like something like that.
Is it possible to establish the truth without looking for the victims? In the same internal email, the Superior General lays out the rationale.
It's not beneficial for the victims for us to undertake an active search. This would have the effect of a second trauma being imposed upon them. There's a difference between going to look for people, going to look for a person, and saying, okay, you were here during this year, did anything happen? There, you're taking a proactive approach. By contrast, what we did was to pass on the information that we had at our disposal.
Sparing the victims is also the strategy of Cardinal Tagle, the former Bishop of Manila, who is now the director of the Paris Foreign Missions at the Vatican. He refused our interview requests.
I think for us, legal action, exposing persons, both victims and abusers, to the public, either through media or legal action, that adds to the pain.
From his statements, it seems pretty clear to me that Cardinal Tagle does not want these cases of child sex abuse in mission churches to be opened. Because if you open them, you're opening Pandora's box.
In France, authorities have recently taken an interest in the MEP. Not for crimes against minors, but for the alleged sexual abuse of fragile young adults.
Allô? Le mec de dimanche? Alors, il y en a une au Lyon d'Angers à 11h.
In spring of 2023, a series of scandals once again stains the foreign missions. The first involves a priest officiating a parish in western France.
Je pense que ici, ça doit être le Père Émeric.
In April, the Catholic press reveals that prosecutors in the city of Angers have opened an investigation into Father Emeric.
L'onde de choc est loin d'être passée. Vendredi, nous apprenions que le curé de la paroisse, le Père Emeric, avait été mis en garde à vue et son domicile perquisitionné dans le cadre d'une enquête pour viol aggravé et non-dénonciation de crimes.
Au nom du Père et du Fils et du Saint-Esprit. Que la grâce et la paix de Dieu notre Père et du Seigneur Jésus.
As the story breaks, we're already investigating Father Emeric. We've even attended his mass with a hidden camera. According to our sources, 2 alleged victims have been interviewed by the French police. We contact one of them. We'll call him Aurélien.
Moi, j'ai dit ce que j'avais à dire à la gendarmerie et j'espère que, effectivement, les choses suivront son cours et que le père prendra de ses filles. S'il y a eu d'autres faits, que la justice passe, mais moi, comme c'est des faits qui datent d'il y a 10 ans, voire plus, donc j'ai rien à attendre de la justice.
Et de la justice de l'Église?
De l'Église, il n'y a rien qui peut se passer. L'Église, elle se protège.
The first time Aurélien dared to speak out, it was to this man in 2015. Let's call him Joseph. He wants to remain anonymous to protect his private life. Joseph was the first to raise the alarm about the MEP. At the time, he was a student and was staying at the mission headquarters in Paris.
In November 2015, I found out that a young man I knew had had relations that he described as non-consensual with Emeric. This young man told me shyly that he had been in financial difficulty and that Father Emeric gave him money in exchange for sex.
Years later, Aurélien would detail what happened to journalist Sophie Lebrun.
Et alors qu'il se trouve dans les lieux de l'église,
while he was in church, the priest tells him that with everything he's done for him, Aurélien should be nicer to him. And at that moment, with a sudden move that surprised Aurélien and left him no time to react, the priest pulled his pants down and began performing oral sex on him.
Le prêtre baisse son pantalon et lui fait une fellation.
At that moment, Aurélien was frozen. He explained afterwards that he was petrified, that he has almost no memories of what happened next. But for the rest of his stay, he did everything he could to never be alone with this priest, and that they never spoke about it again.
The Catholic Church still condemns homosexuality. Joseph, who is gay, suffered greatly in this conservative environment that he grew up in.
It's a culture where homosexuality is considered a vice and a sin. These people are fragile, and they're made even more so by the doctrine, which ultimately leads them to be the first victims of exploitation and abuse.
According to him, the reason Aurélien did not lodge a complaint sooner was because he didn't want to reveal his homosexuality.
When you're Catholic and homosexual, you're ashamed of being gay. So you hide it, and pressing charges means going public with your homosexuality. It's revealing your shame. So it's difficult.
One of the factors that makes it hard for these victims to speak out is that they're afraid of being judged themselves, as a victim and as a man who has been forced to submit to a sex act by another man.
We've tried to contact Father Emmerich. Despite repeated efforts, he does not get back to us. Father Emmerich appears to have been protected by the higher echelons of the Paris Foreign Missions and of the Church itself. He'd long served as a missionary in Japan. In 2011, however, he was suddenly recalled to France. The reason was a homosexual relationship, consensual, but one that threatened to set off a scandal. At the time, the Superior General of Paris Foreign Missions was Georges Collomb. He decides to name Father Emmerich Youth Director for the Paris headquarters.
Père infiniment bon, ôtez-moi ce doute, délivrez-moi de ce tourment.
Father Emmerich was in charge of the students housed at the MEP, as well as the future seminarians.
It was an error of judgment on Colombe's part. He couldn't put him in a parish after what happened in Japan, but he put him in charge of vocations and thus of the recruitment of future seminarians and in close contact with young boys.
3 years later, Father Emmerich is accused of assaulting young Aurélien. The Superior General, Georges Collomb, doesn't report it. Instead, he sends the alleged predator to a convent. At the same time, Joseph learns that Georges Collomb may have himself assaulted a man. Joseph decides to alert one of the church's most influential figures, Cardinal Barbarin, Archbishop of Lyon at the time.
To go see Cardinal Barbarin is to go to the top of the pyramid to try to get someone high up to react. He oversees 300 people. He reports directly to Rome.
We contacted the Cardinal Barbarin. He did not wish to comment and said he would only answer to the police. According to our investigation, at least 2 other high church officials had also been informed of accusations against Collomb. Luigi Ventura, the Pope's then representative in France, who says he has no recollection of it. And the former Archbishop of Paris, André 23, he refused our interview requests. And yet, a few months later, Georges Collomb is ordained Bishop of La Rochelle with fanfare. André 23 himself presides over the celebration.
Je voudrais bien transmettre mes remerciements à Sa Sainteté, le Pape François, pour la confiance qu'il me fait, que l'Église me fait.
I was astounded by Colombe's nomination. I thought, this isn't possible. What happened? Plenty of people in the church were aware of what had happened, and no one did anything.
We had met Bishop Georges Collomb in Lourdes. We were already investigating the former superior of the Paris Foreign Missions. In front of our cameras, he played the innocent card.
Each time someone alerted me to anything against the law, I notified the prosecutor. No, honestly, I don't think the bishops can be blamed for hiding anything. That's not true. That's all I have to say. Have a nice day.
But 7 months later...
France Inter. L'évêque de La Rochelle, Georges Collomb, sous le coup d'une enquête ouverte par le parquet de Paris il y a moins d'un mois...
comes an investigation for attempted rape. After 10 years of silence, his alleged victim has emerged from the shadows.
I myself was assaulted. You can call me tomorrow or today between 8 and 8:15 p.m.
We'll call him Nicolas. He often stays with the Paris Foreign Missions. In the winter of 2013, during a trip to the French capital, Georges Collomb invited him to his official residence.
I showed up at his apartment, not suspecting anything. I have a great respect for the Catholic institution. He offered me a coffee, but I didn't get to drink it.
Instead of the coffee, the Superior General offers him a massage.
I said yes, against my better judgment, because I was caught off guard. I didn't have time to think. Georges Collomb started stroking my back and pulled me towards his bed. The massage continued for barely a minute before he tore off my pants by yanking on my belt quite violently. He took my pants off and he put his hand where he shouldn't. It's painful to talk about this in detail, but anyone can imagine what happened. It was horrible.
Hello?
Hello, Georges Collomb.
That's me. There's an investigation, so I won't comment. I deny these accusations. I've gone into retirement. When a government minister is accused, he resigns his post. He retires. That's what I've done. There you have it, ma'am. Have a nice summer.
Nicolas spoke to the police, but did not want to press charges.
I declined to press charges for fear of harming the church's image. I declined for fear of harming the image of the Paris Foreign Missions, for which I have the greatest respect. I also wanted to protect the career of my friend, a priest who was the assistant of my attacker.
This friend is Gilles Rétinger. At the time, he was the number 2 at the Paris Foreign Missions under Georges Collomb. In 2016, he became head of the society. He's the same priest that Father Philippe called his initiator when he was a seminarian. Gilles Rétinger is also said to have covered up for Father Emeric, who is accused of sexual assault. Camille Riot criticized his handling of the abuse reports in Thailand. And in the case of Georges Collomb, Gilles Rétinger is accused of failing to sound the alarm.
Voulez-vous remplir de façon irréprochable la fonction de grand prêtre et de pasteur?
Oui, je le veux.
He too rose through the Paris Foreign Missions to the highest echelons of the Church. On July 4th, 2021, Gilles Rétinger was consecrated Auxiliary Bishop of Strasbourg. So far, he has not been the target of any prosecution and denies any wrongdoing.
He won't give in. None of this is legitimate. And yes, indeed, he will continue his mission. He intends to carry out what the Pope appointed him to do with determination and courage.
For years, these affairs have stayed in the shadows. Vincent Sénéchal succeeded Georges Collomb and Gilles Rétinger at the head of the Paris Foreign Missions. He has alerted authorities to the accusations. But the new Superior General rejects any institutional responsibility.
There's no culture of abuse at foreign missions. We don't protect anyone who's broken the law here. If someone's broken his vow of celibacy, or someone else has committed personal shortcomings, that does not mean it's systematic.
Ça ne fait pas pour autant un système. Non.
At present, 3 official investigations into the Paris foreign missions are ongoing. All persons featured in this documentary are presumed innocent. Nicolas is still hesitant to seek justice in the earthly court of law. His faith in the church remains intact.
For the moment, I'm waiting to see what the ecclesiastical justice system will yield before I decide whether or not to proceed with charges in French courts.
After his warnings went unheeded, Joseph gave up on Catholicism. He says the church is far from done with cases of sexual violence suffered by vulnerable young adults.
They're still being controlled. Their traumas are going to surface in 10 or 20 years. There'll be more scandals. This is just the start of the gay Me Too in the church.
Timothée has returned to Japan, to his family and his boat. He doesn't know if his complaint against Philippe will lead to a trial. From Asia, he continues to send shockwaves through the Paris foreign missions as he recounts the organization's secrets on his YouTube channel.
I will keep fighting till the end for their victims who don't dare to speak out, for adults who are vulnerable, but also for me.
In May 2023, Vincent Sénéchal announced the opening of a vast independent investigation. Its mission is to shine a light on the abuses committed within the Paris foreign missions since 1950. Father Camille Riot is still a member of the foreign missions. In February, he was authorized to temporarily return to his former post in Thailand.
It's certainly a big difference from being a parish priest in Western Paris.
But only long enough to collect his things and say goodbye to his parishioners.
There's a massive force of inertia in the church. So big changes are happening, but it takes time. This demand for the truth from the mission itself, it's been coming, and it will continue to come.
Vinay, the Quran victim of Father Tigreat, told us how disappointed he was. Back in Paris, Father Camille is still waiting to learn his fate. He believes he's done his duty.